What's up guys, my name's McNally and welcome to my channel. For this week's video, you guessed it, we're going to be covering a favorite topic of mine, animated stories on YouTube. These channels is they take these rather hard subjects and try and make them more applicable to a wider range of people by, putting some crappy graphics and animations over it, and then everything's totally fine. And you can totally show these to anyone of any age, especially children, who will probably end up having nightmares. I've covered them about 3 times. They seem to suggest the weirdest ones to me. I don't know, I think I may have watched something that warranted that. It just so happens that one of those has fallen into my lap now, called I Eat Scorpions for Breakfast to Become Poisonous. So before we begin, I have a little bit of an announcement. I have started a Discord server. You can find a link to it in the description down below. I'm always in it. 90% of the time I'm always there, just like posting weird memes. Let's see if you can really do like the superhero cliche and become what you eat.
Most people eat toast or cereal for breakfast, but I'm not most people. I eat scorpions for breakfast.
Now, usually this is where you would stop and say, you know what, I'm not into it. This is too much for me on a Wednesday.
You see, my brother had an accident. He was helping my dad fix the roof on our house, but then he fell. He hit his head really badly, and the doctors thought he would die. But he survived. He banged his head so hard on the ground that he's now completely brain damaged.
So that causes him to listen to heavy metal and bang his own head against the floor? Aren't we a glutton for punishment?
It's hard for me to say this, but I don't feel safe around him.
It's odd that we're more concerned about the kid that, suffered a head injury but recovered and now likes to listen to heavy metal and bang his head against the floor, which is concerning, over the girl that likes to eat scorpions. I'm not saying that one is more important than the other, but the girl likes to eat scorpions.
They left me home alone with him, and I was listening to music in my room. Suddenly, I felt something sharp on my ankle, and when I looked down, my brother was biting me.
Yeah, that's weird. I bet you got paid a lot, though, for babysitting for that.
He bit so hard, he actually drew blood. I screamed, but he wouldn't let go. I eventually had to swing my leg back and forth so that he'd stop. It was like he'd become a wild animal.
For me, sometimes the stories that they offer are just a little bit too, out there. Who experiences half of this stuff? I would have to be in therapy for years if I experienced even like a half of what these animated storytellers experienced.
I told my parents about it as soon as they got home, and they shouted at me. They told me I was supposed to look after him and that it's not his fault, that it'll take time for him to go back to normal.
I don't know, but I feel like biting ankles is a feeling that we repress.
Well, time passed and things just got worse. I eventually installed a lock on my bedroom door because I'd woken up so many times to find him wandering into my room.
Imagine being a teenager in your parents' home and you have no lock on your door. That's scary to me. You know what kind of shit they could find on you?
I'd lie in bed at night listening to him screaming and laughing and banging his fists on my wall. If I hadn't been so afraid, I'd have felt sorry for him. But then I'd look down at my ankle and see the scar from the bite.
I'm not going to say I've ever had a roommate this bad, but I've had roommates that are close to this bad.
I suggested they move him to a facility for people with brain damage, and my dad said that if I didn't shut up, he'd put me in a facility.
What a shitty father. So instead you're gonna let your son run around the house like a crazy person and biting people?
One day I was babysitting him, and he kept glaring at me. His eyes were rolling around, and he looked like he wanted to kill me.
I don't know too many people's eyes that just kind of roll around like that.
I tried to distract myself by watching TV, and that's when a nature documentary caught my attention. It was about scorpions, specifically bark scorpions.
You probably shouldn't mirror what you see the animals on the Animal Channel doing.
The most poisonous in the whole of the U.S. Their sting can lead to numbness and vomiting for up to 72 hours.
Sounds like freshman year of college. That was a joke.
In that moment, I almost envied those scorpions. No one could hurt them.
Except the girl that's going to be eating them,
And the next day, I went out to try and find one. The show said they liked citrus trees, and right down the road, there was a citrus farm.
This crazy chick is about to go look for scorpions. Now, I, as a rule, try to avoid anything scorpion/spider related. And her brother's the one that suffered the head injury?
I went there after school and asked the man who owned the farm if I could take a walk around. He seemed suspicious and asked me if I was planning on stealing his fruit.
First thing that would come to my mind is, are you about to do drugs?
I said, no, I just want to find some scorpions, actually. He looked shocked.
At that point, I would think, oh, she's come here to do drugs. She's already on drugs. What kind of crazy person comes looking for scorpions?
Then he asked me to follow him. He led me to the back of a big shed and pointed towards a tank. Inside were dozens of scorpions. I couldn't believe it.
People have some weird things, but I would never think to save the scorpions. This dude took the time to save all these scorpions.
Can I buy some? I asked him. Buy? Huh, you can have them for free. Saves me killing them later.
I would think it would not be considered very smart to give a teenager a case full of scorpions. Just feel like that there's some red flags that go off there.
No, God!
And then I had another thought. I'd read that you could eat them. My parents weren't home yet.
What was she going to do with them before she had the idea to eat them? Dump them all over her brother? Nah, he'd probably actually be into that.
So I went downstairs and poured some oil into a pan. Then I fried the scorpion and cut off its stinger. I couldn't believe it. I was actually about to eat a scorpion. I even filmed myself. I could be famous, I thought.
It's kind of like that Tide Pods fad, you know, where people are eating Tide Pods for views. I really do not remember the whole eating scorpions fad.
I decided to upload the video to my Instagram. I only had like 50 followers, but still.
This girl clearly wanted some clout. What if this whole thing was her just to get more Instagram followers? This whole convoluted story about how her brother's like, you know, and her parents like, her life is just,
Later that night, I decided to try something. I crept into my brother's room when he was already fast asleep. His toes were sticking out of the end of his bed. I bit down on his big toe and waited. It was just a little bite.
What kind of freak are you? You put your brother's foot in your mouth. Your brother's looking more and more normal as you are looking more and more like, well, the creepy girl that likes to eat scorpions and bite people.
He kicked me in the face. My nose started bleeding. He didn't even know he'd done it. He was still asleep. So much for being poisonous. I just need to eat more and try again.
Yes, that's the thought we should be having. It didn't work, so we should eat more scorpions, because then it'll work.
It was still moving, and I was about to spit it out, but it was too late. It was crawling down my throat. Oh, I felt like I was gonna choke. I grabbed a glass of water and washed it down. Well, it was inside me now. There was nothing I could do about it.
There was a girl at my high school who used to have the same philosophy. Not with scorpions, with different things, but I won't get into that.
My brother spat his tongue out at me, and suddenly I grabbed him and told him to never do that again. I'd never done that before, and it shocked me. I didn't know I was even capable of speaking to him like that.
So this whole thing could have been avoided if you had just gotten some confidence and told your brother, hey, fuck off.
Why I started eating scorpions for breakfast every morning. It was too risky to cook them in the kitchen, so I decided to just eat them raw.
What the hell? Is this not concerning for anybody?
So I decided to get them back for this. The next day, I watched as they opened their lockers at exactly the same time. I'll never forget their screams. They echoed through the corridor, and one of the scorpions actually looked like it was chasing them. I laughed so hard.
What kind of monster is this chick? Eating scorpions, putting scorpions in people's lockers. Maybe this girl hit her head, and, you know, when that was happening, she had these dreams during her coma, and everything switched.
I caught him just as he was about to open my scorpion tank. I ran over and pulled him onto the ground, but it was too late. One of the scorpions was about to escape. Before my brother could touch it, I grabbed it, and then I felt it. It was worse than any pain I'd ever felt in my life.
This is a good PSA to perhaps keep your scorpions in a safe location where people can't get to them, and keep it in a locked container. Or just don't keep scorpions at all, would probably be the best advice.
And then just before I passed out, I saw him walking towards the tank, and then I looked over to my left, and there was my brother. But he was also lying in a hospital bed, and his eyes were closed. My parents suddenly came in and saw me waking up and started crying, and then they started shouting. They asked why I had scorpions in my room, and then they told me that my brother had been stung by one too.
Probably a legitimate question. You know, why are you keeping a tank full of scorpions? You would think at some point you'd see, hey, did you see in our daughter's room there is a tank full of scorpions? What's that about?
It was the two girls from school that I'd pranked and their parents. They asked where my parents were. Then they went crazy. The one girl's dad started shouting at them, saying they were the most irresponsible parents on the planet.
He's not wrong. I mean, your daughter is keeping like a whole tank full of scorpions and releasing them at school.
Parents just sat there speechless, gripping onto my brother's hands. Then one of the girls said, "See, her brother is a total freak. I bet he ate a scorpion too, and that's why he's here." My mom stood up, and I thought she was going to grab the girl and shake her. But then she turned to me and said, "You ate a what?" Then the girls showed my mom the video.
Crazy must run in that family. I wouldn't really say he's crazy. I mean, he's crazy because, he fell and hit his head. She's crazy just cuz.
Call the doctor. I didn't even have time to grab my stuff and run out of there before a whole group of doctors cornered me and tied me to the bed. Then they wheeled me off to another part of the hospital. I was screaming the whole way there. Suddenly, I was in a room with no windows, and even the walls were padded. Did they think I was insane?
Yeah, you eat scorpions for fun, and you're releasing them at school. They just don't think you're having, like, a bad day.
But they left me at the hospital. I spent a whole month in the psychiatric ward before they released me. Looks like my dad kept his word. He really did put me in a facility. At school now, it's not my brother people whisper about, it's me, and it's all my fault. What do you think of my story?
Well, there's an ending for you. That's my story animated, folks. At 10 minutes of your life you'll probably never get back. If you guys liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And in the comments, tell me what you thought of this video, or tell me if you guys have any of your own favorite animated stories that are on YouTube that you think are just completely bizarre. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social media, that's all in the description below as well. And I will see you guys next week with a brand new video. And oh, by the way, it's Christmas, so have a great holiday season and a Merry Christmas. Bye.